You are listening to the Slow Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Stephanie O'Day. What if I told you that you could truly have the life of your dreams, the life you've always wanted, one filled with abundance, joy, and a sense of purpose? It's absolutely possible, and I see it each and every day with my coaching clients. It all starts with learning how to slow down. You deserve to live the life you've always dreamt about. Let's get started. Hi there, Steph here, and we're on episode number 76 of the Slow Living Podcast, and I am absolutely thrilled to have here with me today. And when I say here with me today, it's virtual, it's through Zoom and recording. But my new friend Emily, and Emily is an author of a few books, but her newest book is Hey Hun, Sales, Sisterhood, Supremacy, and the Other Lies Behind Multi-Level Marketing, which is essentially the complete opposite of everything we teach and talk about with the Slow Living Podcast of slowing down and visualizing what you want your life to look like, and then slowly and steadily and methodically and sustainably make it happen. And Emily, you have done the complete opposite, but now you have slowed down and you are rebuilding your life step by step. So how did you fall into all of this? And also, FYI, your book is amazing. I could not put it down. I am so drawn to memoirs and nonfiction, but this reads like really good, fast-paced fiction, but it was your actual real life.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's really interesting because I think a lot of people don't understand MLMs, and then once you start explaining them or they start reading, they're like, oh yeah, I do know what these things are. So I got involved about 10 years ago, and I, like a lot of people, saw this thing kind of floating around social media, and I knew a little bit about MLMs. I knew they were kind of like a home party thing. I knew women worked from home and all of those like little buzzwords. And I had a friend who was pretty successful, seemingly, from her Facebook photos. And she invited me out for wine and wanted to talk about, she wanted to catch up and talk about her business. And I figured, what was the harm in it? I was really at that time in my life, I just had my last baby and I was looking for something. I was looking for some extra next thing, some escape, some next step. Going back into the workforce wasn't really feasible because we had kids and childcare just didn't make sense. And so I just thought, what was the harm in learning more? And so I really trusted her, and I trusted that she joined this thing. She was successful. The product seemed okay. And I joined her, and I thought maybe this could be something for me. I really held on to that hope. And the other thing was it came along with this big network of people. There was all these other women who were doing this too. And I thought, here's connection, here's community, here's potential money, and something else outside of like driving to preschool and changing diapers. So I got in and I kind of ran with ignorance. I always say I didn't really know much about it. I just knew that she was telling me to, send messages to people, and I was doing what I was coached, and I became very successful pretty quickly. Lucky for me, I kind of got in at the right time. There weren't a lot of people in my area who knew about this company or knew about the products. And I was fortunate in the sense that, I had a husband who was gainfully employed, and most of my network had spouses who, they had second jobs, or they were a double income house, and they had disposable income. And so they could spend money on the things I was selling. So that's really how I got in. And then I stayed in for a long time because I really believed that, if you do the work, you'll succeed. And I started seeing that other people were not succeeding, that wasn't really coming true. And I started doing more research and realizing that, there was a lot of duplicitous stuff going on that I didn't want to be involved in.
So you write in your book that the way the company your particular company, and I like how you sort of made up a name and conglomerated them all into one. It was essentially a cult. And I am fascinated with cults and always sort of have been. And in college, I actually wrote a paper called The Amish as a Cult. And I used it 10 times and kept getting A's on it. I guess now, according to my kids who are in college, you no longer can plagiarize yourself in college and you can't reuse papers, which kind of stinks, which means I cannot go back to college now because that is exactly how I graduated. But I think a lot of it came from being young and watching the David Koresh kind of story with my parents. And then my mom had talked to me about Jonestown and Guyana, and it was just sort of always indoctrinated into me, like, don't join a cult, don't join a cult. And so when I was a newish mom and I was desperate to kind of find a legitimate way to work from home, I did end up on a conference call with Melaleuca, which is tea tree oil, and they were claiming it could clean your kitchen and cure cancer. But I remember in that welcome call, they said that if your friends and family aren't on your side, they're dream squashers, and you don't need to tell them about it. And so for me, that was so many red flags that I'm like, okay, done. And what was fascinating through reading your book is I stopped counting them, but you may have said 30 to 40 times, I ignored the red flags. I ignored my intuition. So how did you do that? How can you sort of shelve your skepticism over and over again?
That's really interesting in what you said about, shunning people and people are haters. That's one of the ways that happens. And when you isolate yourself, you silo yourself in this community with air quotes, of people who are all saying the same things, doing the same things, it just perpetuates that belief that what you are doing is okay. And when you seemingly have success, even from the outset, your intuition is really squashed. Like I said, I didn't know a lot about it, but my upline said, hey, here's these scripts to send through Facebook, send these cold messages to people. And my initial thought was like, ew, I don't want to do that. Like, that feels gross to me. But they preempt everything by, hey, this is going to feel uncomfortable. This is going to feel uncomfortable, but this is how you, lean into your discomfort, and this is how you grow. And so initially, any kind of cringe feeling, any red flag kind of gets squashed. And then you just slowly from there kind of shut down your intuition. I mean, nobody says, hey, do you want to join a cult today? Do you want to scam people? They say, do you want to join this wonderful community? Do you want to help people? Like, that's what you think you're doing. So any little red flags that come up are pretty easy to squash along the way. And then by the time you squash a bunch of red flags, it's like you're already surrounded by all these people who are also doing the same thing, also quote unquote succeeding. And so it just reinforces the belief that what you are doing is okay, and that anybody outside of the organization must just not know enough. They must just not be educated. They must just want to see you fail, because those are the messages you're sent. And nothing describes a cult better. If you are like, am I in a cult? Ask yourself, what happens if I leave? And things can be culty. There's a book called Cultish.
Yeah, I know. I have read that. Yeah. I really do like all of this stuff. And I feel bad because I'm not trying to poke fun of you, because I know this is your real life. So I apologize if I'm coming across as insensitive. It's just fascinating to me.
Not at all. And that's why I wrote about it, because people ask, like, you're so smart. How did you get roped into this? And I'm like, most people who do are like really smart and, mean really well. But lots of things are culty, right? But what happens if you leave? And I always equate it to like Orange Theory. I do Orange Theory, right? And I love it. And, people who aren't in it are like, what are splat points? And, what is base pace and stuff? Nobody would know. But it's not necessarily like hurting other people. And if I leave, if I don't go to Orange Theory, they might be like, hey, where have you been? We miss you. But they would never say, okay, you are a hater. You must be going to another gym. That gym sucks, whatever. So asking yourself what happens when you leave. And like with Melaleuca or whatever, an MLM, where, it takes on such a big part of your personality. It's your community, it's your finances, it's your friends, it's sometimes your religious group, sometimes it's your self-help, it's your everything. And you leave, that your leaving really challenges what people need to believe to stay in. And so that's like the number one question you ask yourself if you're like, am I in a cult? What would happen if you left?
Yeah. So a few things came up while I was reading your book that was really interesting to me is you likened it to a sorority a few times. And the way my personality is I'm pretty introverted, to the idea of joining a sorority just seems exhausting to me. Yet I can understand why other people might really like it. Were there feelings that so I know you have 5 children and you only briefly touched about the isolation of motherhood, which is huge. What were you trying to achieve by doing this? Was it just, let's go hang out with wine, and then it just sort of, you find yourself on this ski slope and your snowball's getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Or did you have something like that felt like a void you were trying to fill?
Yeah, I think both. I think when you are home with kids and someone says, do you want to go out? And you're like, oh my gosh, do my hair and actually put clothes on, and that whole escape feeling. For sure. I mean, she could have been inviting me out for anything and I probably would have met up with her. Right. And I think it's the packaged everything. It's the packaged escape. You'll get to do more of this. You come here, you'll get to do more of this with your own people, and you'll get to possibly go on trips, and you'll get to possibly, get a car, and possibly, it was really the hope. And I was regularly already escaping my life at that point. I was drinking. I was, trying to, get out of the house when I could. And so I think looking for, relieving that pressure that moms have, that of course is systemic, right? It's too much is on our plates. We don't have paid parental leave. We don't have subsidized childcare. We don't have all those things. And so what do you look for? You look for external stuff. And this was that for me.
Yes. Which is, again, exactly everything that is opposite of what we teach in the Slow Living podcast. So I'm really happy that you're here. And if you're listening to this for the first time, we do have an episode on Sober Curious, which is episode number 58. And I now know from reading Emily's book, which is a fantastic book and everyone should go get. So it's Hey Hun, Sales, Sisterhood, Supremacy, and the Other Lies Behind Multi-Level Marketing. And in this book, she really does liken it to a cult. And when you feel sort of feelings of inadequacy or feelings of uncomfortableness and you're not able to sit with them, meditate them out, journal them out, sometimes you're looking for ways to numb them out. And so she ended up definitely talking a lot about her alcohol use and abuse. And so if you have the time, go back, listen to episode number 58 and ask yourself some good questions of if the feelings inside of you are something you can deal with on your own. If it's something that you need to dive in with a therapist, with your doctor, with a life coach, do that. Because, and Emily will share, unfortunately, you had a bad turn of not ODing, but overdoing it. Also, the sequin jumpsuit story in Las Vegas, all of these things, it's so funny because we could be sort of living parallel lives of suburban upper middle class white women. I completely and totally understand my privilege and thank everybody every day for all the things. But none of what you described sounds like anything I would ever want to do. First of all, I don't like sequins. And Las Vegas is loud and noisy and smoky. And it is just so interesting how you can just sort of divvy off on these other paths. And so it's just fascinating to me. So I really am so grateful that you took the time to write all this out and I can live vicariously through you.
Well, and those things are so exhausting, emotionally exhausting, like I described them in the book. And it's almost like it's not like there's a choice in the matter necessarily, even though, yes, you pay for the ticket, you pay for all the stuff, you go, you get on the plane, you get yourself there. But the pressure to show up is so high that it's not even a question that you would do all these things. I mean, I can tell you, you couldn't pay me any amount of money now to put on a sequin jumpsuit or to go all-nighters in Las Vegas. No way. But I wasn't doing it because I internally wanted to.
Okay. So what is that feeling? What were you trying to fill there? Was it just the feeling of belonging? A feeling part of something?
I think that's part of it. The retention events done in MLM are very intentional, that you have local things where they have people who've succeeded and they talk about how great their lives are, and then you get this hope, and that's what keeps people roped in. Mm-hmm. And annually they have these huge conventions that have music acts and lights and fancy outfits. And again, it's just to keep you more roped in, even if your belief starts to fade, or even if your results aren't matching up, you're not making money. But once you get to a certain place where you have had some success, there's a lot of shame in falling backwards.
Yeah.
So if you don't go to those things, well, gosh, someone's going to, and I don't succeed. They're going to say that I didn't succeed because I didn't go to this thing. Right. And if I don't go, then my team won't go, right?
You had talked about belief. So I think the major core belief that is different with me when I was starting an online business and you was, I never had that belief that you do bring up, and your husband Para did also, of spend money to make money. That was never a core belief of mine, probably because I didn't actually have the money to invest the initial $500 or I guess under $500. So the FTC, what is it? Don't get flagged. Somebody doesn't get flagged. So I mean, back to my Meloka story. I mean, there was just no way I wasn't going to buy anything anyway. But when I first got it started blogging, we spent a lot of time going to blog her conventions, but I only went to the conventions if they flew me in and put me up and paid for everything. Otherwise, I wouldn't go. So your stories of buying the convention tickets and buying things, because probably I'm super frugal and it wouldn't have crossed my nope, obviously they don't want me enough. I'm not doing it, which then I can see is sort of a brain. I don't want to say a bad word, but that's the word I'm thinking of. That's the word I want to use, in that I'm not going to grow fast enough. But also I was okay with it because my ethics and morals and integrity weren't aligned with it. I had been to conventions where there's women throwing up in the elevators and feather boas sprinkled throughout the lobby of the hotel. And I vividly remember I was pregnant, so I was not drinking, so it was okay. But businessy type people looking at these moms gone wild, and my idea of, and my thought was, gosh, I don't want to ever be a part of anything like that. And then one other thing that was interesting is the founders of Blog Her, their core story. And I know because I've been online long enough, and you know that everyone has this story and every marketer tells you to use your story. Well, the three women who started Blog Her's story was that they maxed out their credit cards in order to host the first Blog Her convention. And it worked. And because it worked, they have this success story. But the problem is that was the first one. That was really the top of the pyramid. And anyone below that advice or that story that's sort of sparkly isn't a possibility for a mom from Milwaukee to max out her credit cards and risk her home, her car, her marriage, her family in order to go do these things. And so because of that never sat well with me, and it's just icky and gross. And you talk about feeling icky and gross.
And that's interesting. You say, a couple of things. So when you said my frugality would keep me from going to these things, that would then be used against you, right? Mm-hmm. Because even if it wasn't directly to you, it'd be well, Stephanie, she's not where she should be because she didn't make the time to go to conventions. She didn't make her business a priority. And so even if you didn't directly feel that, it would be in the group used against you, right? And this idea that, spend money to make money. I mean, that's another one of those, it's the platitudinous buzzwords that make you think, okay, I'll stay in for another month. That sunk cost fallacy of, I know I've put in so much, but God, I've put in so much at this point. What if next month it works out? It's pulling on that hope. And again, I bought the business kit like anybody else, but I also bought it in a network where not many people were using it. Yeah. And by the time I got people in, I had already tapped the market. Everything was already saturated. And so it's not the same. It's not a level playing field if you don't have a network with money, if you don't have a network that doesn't already use products very similar. So like you said, the people at the top, that worked for them, but are those results typical? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So it's interesting because depending on your mindset and how your brain works, and we actually talk about this an awful lot of your hormones fluctuate, and your productivity that you have on Wednesday of this week is not going to be the same as the Wednesday on that week, and you can't beat yourself up on it. But yet we do. And the idea that if you just push harder, hustle harder, do a little bit more, put that last post on social media, that will be the one that causes the tipping point, and then all of a sudden you'll have the success that you've been chasing. But the way these companies are structured is really, unless you really are quite high up on the level or already have a huge social base, it's just not going to work. So really, is your best advice to anyone, just stay far, 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 far away and don't have that inkling of, oh, well, I live in a small town and nobody has heard of blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to be the first one and it'll be okay because I'm the first one.
Well, you'll be the first one and you might do okay because lots of other people are failing. That's the point I finally got to.
So it only works for you if you're kind of squashing others and lying? Coercing? What is the right word?
It's definitely coercion, but nobody believes that it's lying necessarily because, I really believed anybody could succeed.
Right. And you grew up a Christian of knowing right and wrong. You were not, in your brain, you were not knowingly lying to people. Is that right?
No. And then once I saw the results, gosh, Kelly is really doing all the things that I'm coaching her to do. And gosh, it's not working out. Why? Once I had a critical eye and I was willing to look past the things that the company was telling me, well, she must not be doing the work. It's this meritocracy, right? That, no, it succeeds if you do it. Well, but it's not. It isn't working. And also when you look at the amount people are spending, and again, the pay to play system, people might be getting a paycheck, but gosh, how much are they spending?
Yeah. So that's another interesting thing in that how you write that you bought this kit, but you didn't tell your husband until after the fact. So again, that wouldn't fly in the O'Day household because our first few weeks of marriage, we had an agreement that we just don't buy things without talking to each other. And I think we had decided it was $100, but we've now been married 23 years. We actually don't buy anything outside of groceries or whatever the kids need without talking to each other. We just don't. It just doesn't happen. I feel really bad. Adam's like, so I wanted new golf shoes. So they're in the cart, but they're $65. What do you think? And my answer is buy the golf shoes. Yes, obviously, buy them. But then also in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, good, because I have some Uggs that are there that I really want to. So I think that's how we balance it out. But never would I buy that without doing that. So is that the wine talking then? You sort of...
It's very encouraged. I think in our relationship, it was more, we kind of have a dollar limit, right? If you want to buy what you need, but if you want to spend more than some, such and such, we'll talk about it. We just kind of have that general rule. But to me, it was I think that was my initial oh, he's going to think this is dumb, or he's going to think this is weird, which again, I'm squashing my own intuition and his. And he was like, he was like, okay, I don't know if this is really a thing, but go ahead and try it. He was like, go ahead.
Okay. So then I want to do a pause. I want to do a caveat, because what I said about the golf shoes and the Uggs is true in our day-to-day personal lives. But once I started making money in my business, I really didn't run everything by Adam. And I absolutely fell for different marketing scams, not MLM-ish, but learn how to do Facebook ads the best way and give me... So I want to say I am not a golden child in any way. I have absolutely made mistakes. So I apologize if I came off as high and mighty, because okay.
Not at all. Because I think, again, it's one of those things where you think, oh, I wouldn't do that. But then you're like, wait a minute, maybe I would.
Yeah. So, okay. So if anybody's listening to this for the first time, I did, and I don't remember what number it was. 72, 71, I don't know. I did one on sniffing out scams. So listen to that, and I confess to all of the things I've fallen for in my life. So,
and as far as the spouse thing, that is something that, again, you will be told not to tell your spouse about it. This is something that's very common that you'll see in MLM circles. Like, if your husband doesn't support you, he doesn't want you to be successful. Yikes. And it's like, yikes. Yeah. So it's something that you definitely, if it comes up as an objection, like, ooh, I don't think my husband is going to like this, well, prove him wrong.
I know. So it's really interesting, because everything you're saying, I have this kind of cognitive dissonance of wanting to believe in myself that I wouldn't fall for it. But I also know I like infomercials. I want my neck a little tighter. Like, I do think if you're feeling kind of down and low and vulnerable, I absolutely can see how that can happen. And so now that it's all said and done and you've got this book, do you look at former Emily as a victim?
Yeah, I think everybody who gets into an MLM is a victim. I think everybody who joins, I really don't believe anyone joins and they're like, sweet, I'm going to scam a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. Everyone joins for a good reason. And once I started to realize that other people weren't succeeding, I still stayed in a lot longer than I should have.
Well, it looks like you were making a lot of money. So in the book, you had talked about the golden handcuffs and that type of thing. And that is a real thing to walk away from actual real money. And the only reason you were making that money is because you were relatively high on top, and you then asked other people to join your team. And then what you're talking about right now is they were not making money, and then that made you feel bad.
They were either making very little and working very hard, or losing money. People, they weren't having the success that they were supposed to have, like I had, if they were doing the things they were supposed to do. And just the feeling that, this is a dream that I have been selling that actually doesn't exist. Okay.
So I'm glad that you brought up the word dream, because you had talked about that people want to chase the ideal of the American dream. And I actually talk about it because my version of the American dream, I feel like I'm living. I love my life. I love the dog. I love my kids. I like the house. Like I like the Uggs. I like all of these things, and I feel like I am living my version of the American dream. But I also know that what I'm doing is sustainable, and my version may look completely different to somebody else's version. But what these companies are sort of preaching is, if you do it exactly this way, step by step, check mark by check mark, you too will have it. Is that correct?
That's correct. And, what's interesting is that there's plenty of data out there. I mean, there's all the facts that I put in my book, all the statistics. It's out there. All of this is readily available. Every company puts out its own financial disclosure that they're abysmal, or like nobody makes money. But there are so many talking points that the company gives you. And again, they sell this hope that you can be that one person. And what you see are the success stories of the very few. There's very few, but those are the things that are shared. Those are the people talking on stage. Those are the people talking at retention events. And the millions down at the bottom all assume that they can possibly get there if they just send one more cold message or they just stay in one more month. And you get these little breadcrumbs along the way, right? Like you'll get these little love bombs from your upline, these little gifts. You'll get these shout outs from the company that keep you engaged enough to keep spending money. And that's all the company needs you to do. Because regardless, the company's making money from you.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you were talking about the gifts. I once hired a business coach, and I actually talked about this in that episode of Sniffing Out Scams. And it was thousands and thousands of dollars. And then I got this gorgeous package in the mail. And my first thought is, well, I would have rather spent $300 less than get this thing in the mail. So there's that. And then you talked about toxic positivity, and that gets thrown around an awful lot. What's your definition of toxic positivity?
So I think positivity is great. I consider myself a realist, positive optimist, right? But when there's nothing behind it and you're not acknowledging any criticism at all. So when, for example, if I were to say, gosh, everyone, you guys are all doing great. Everyone's doing so well. Keep sending those cold messages. Keep doing all the things. And if someone were to say, oh, I sent this message and someone said something crappy to me, it'd be like, you delete that comment. It's not even, it's not acknowledging, the inherent negativity of anything. Because there's going to be criticism. There should be feedback. There should be, there's negatives about every positive, right? Otherwise there wouldn't be positive. You need both. So not accepting feedback, not allowing critical thinking. And this goes very deep into like the emotional, physical, financial, like the control aspect of information. Like we're going to keep things positive. Don't go read that negative article. Don't watch that negative YouTube video. And don't talk about it. Because if you do, you're bringing other people down. So it's the shame of like, don't question anything. And that's different. That, toxic positivity is very much, again, squashing that intuition and not allowing critical thinking. That's the biggest difference.
Okay. So I like all of that. And I absolutely agree with that because I'm definitely an optimist in many ways. And I like to use the talking point and teaching point of feeling all of the feels, but then acting on the facts. And what's interesting is the facts are, for many, many, many people, they're losing money. And you had talked about that it's not even encouraged to do a balance sheet, which is so startling that that's a company and you're trying to run a business. And the first thing you need to know when you're running a business is how much is coming in and how much is going out.
Right. Well, first thing, because it's not a business. You're an independent contractor for a huge corporation. So it's really funny how women in MLMs, men too, it's mostly women, talk about how corporate America, like ditch corporate America, ditch your 9 to 5, and the company is a corporation. So it's just funny. But the company would never encourage you to keep track of your expenses because then you wouldn't want to spend as much money. So why would they encourage that? It's more encouraged to, again, that sunk cost fallacy. And you are encouraged to do more of the things that you don't want to do. Spend more money because, again, like say you send out 100 cold messages and you get one response back. Well, that's going to be used to say, see, if you just keep sending the messages, you'll get one. You get these little breadcrumbs. Or if you spend $1,000 and look, you got a sale. Well, yeah, you got $20 back, but that's going to keep you going like, oh, you're right. It did work. Even if the numbers don't match up, you get enough of that reinforcement to just keep you going for another month.
Okay. So if anyone is listening this right now and they are in a business model or a corporate model that follows this sort of business plan, I want you to run some numbers. I want you to do some mathing right now and really then act on the facts. So feel all the feels. You can feel bummed. You can feel disappointed. You can feel shame. You can feel inadequate. But then really sit with the facts and decide from that point of, because data doesn't lie. I mean, it's tricky feeling the data. So, I mean, even when it comes to stepping on the scale, sometimes we want to ignore the number, but you really have to pay attention and then act on what you see in front of you. It's interesting. You had talked about the car at one point and then paying for different things. And I grew up with Ashley, and Ashley would have sleepovers. And I very much so remember Ashley's mom giving us little goodie bags of a whole bunch of pink makeup. And Ashley's mom did have the pink car. But I'm now learning that she didn't really own this pink car. So how does that all work?
Oh yeah, that's one of the biggest like ruse of MLM is the free car, and it's always in caps, free car. So basically, there's a car program with most companies, and it's for some white luxury like a Lexus or a Mercedes or a Cadillac, right? So they're expensive vehicles. And if you get to a certain sales volume, your organization, which is the people in your pyramid, sell a certain number of products or a certain dollar amount, then the company will put a certain amount on your paycheck for a car payment. So you go to the dealership, you negotiate your own thing, you put down the down payment, you pay the title, the registration, all the things, or you figure out the lease details. It's all on you. If you don't have good credit, you're not getting a car. Like that's all there is to it. So you negotiate the details and then you send the information to the company. They say, okay, you bought a car. Now we'll give you, $250 a month, $500 a month, $750 a month, whatever it is. It's never that much. And it's rarely enough to actually cover the payment of a car that expensive. So, but the idea is that people see this and they're like, holy crap, you got a car? Well, what do I need to do that? And the company's not on the hook for it. If your sales go down the next month, if you don't hold that title, that sales volume, they don't give you the $500 that month for the car. And so it's yours. You're on the hook for it. This isn't a free car. It's just your car that you're getting a little bit of extra money for. It's a total joke.
Wow. Yeah. So I absolutely did not know that until I read your book and hearing you explain it. I guess it's just sad because then people feel as if they've earned this, that they should capitalize on it and then show other people. And it's just kind of this smoke and mirrors effect, which is, it's just kind of sad. So do you think the American dream is dead?
I think the American dream exists for very few people.
Wow. Okay. So you're raising 5 children. So what is your advice to them? Because that sounds so defeatist.
The reason, and again, like you pointed out, like I come from a place of massive privilege, right? I'm an upper middle class. I've got a husband who's gainfully employed. And I was able to leave. Not only was I able to join and do well in the MLM because I had a network of people with money and a husband with a job, I was also able to leave for that same reason. Mm-hmm. And so I don't ever discount that. It's like, well, if you're involved and you're doing something crappy, just leave. Like that's not going to be feasible for a lot of people either. And so does the American dream exist? Like, I feel like I'm living the dream too, but I know that it's not available for everybody. There's too many systemic issues that we're living in the sea of white supremacy, which I talk about in the book, that we don't all have the same 24 hours in a day. We don't all start at square one, right? So I hate to say it doesn't exist, but I don't even have the bandwidth to understand all of the forces at play because I haven't lived them, right? That's not my lived experience.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So I guess my thought is, if you are needing money right now, get a job. get an actual job that provides benefits and security. And many jobs, especially if you're going to them, have other people there that you probably have things in common with, and they're not going to try and get you to buy other things, but you'll actually get paid. and if they're having a wine event that the company is putting on, you probably won't have to buy the wine.
Right. Yeah. And it ultimately, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But if you are being asked to spend money to make money, like that's the number one red flag. And, when you join an MLM, the thing to remember is you are an unpaid contractor. You pay money, and then you only make money if you sell something. And I know that sounds obvious, but with an actual job, you get paid per hour. Right.
No, I have a day job right now and I absolutely love it. And, if I don't work all that hard, I still get paid. And other days I work really hard. But it all washes out, which is again of that you're not a spreadsheet. Real humans have ups and downs and all arounds. And if you are not feeling uber motivated, it doesn't mean you're failing, and it doesn't mean you have to work harder or hustle harder. So it's, I know I'm cognizant of your time, but you had talked about Rachel Hollis and you talked about Jen Sincero. So I actually have read both of those books. I like Jen Sincero's book. I think You Are a Badass at Making Money more than the first one. And really she's playing off of Esther and Jerry Hicks, who channel Abraham. And so the best book on that, I have it in a different room, but I think it's Ask and It Is Given. So it's the laws of the universe and manifestation and that kind of thing. And so take that for what it is. That's really what Jen Sincero has sort of watered down. And then Rachel Hollis has essentially, from what I can see, repackaged Tony Robbins in this sort of like girl boss way. And I found her book really hard to read. I didn't enjoy it at all because I don't like being told what to do.
Well, and also being told what to do, and then at the end finding out like she didn't actually do what she was told to do. Like she's not doing all the things that she's telling you to do. She had a nanny and she had help and she had a very, rich husband who, like.
Right. I never followed any of it because I was not her target market, but I do know that they were giving marital advice while their marriage was not so good. So really research people. So I guess I would type in someone's name and then the word scam or someone's name and just, I don't know, read and do some research before blindly following. And that's another thing. Don't blindly follow anybody. Filter and then go quiet and go within and make your own best next step. And I really like the idea of when you ask yourself good open-ended questions and then just wait, your brain, so your subconscious, will come up with the answer, or you can liken it to the voice of God or nudges from the universe, whatever fits well for your psyche.
And I think it's fine to follow people or like see people as aspirational, but also asking yourself, okay, but now she's asking me to spend $1,000 on this course. You know what I mean? Like, just think about why you find these people aspirational. Like, what do I see about her that's so aspirational? Oh, but she has a lot of money and she can do all of these things. I'm not equipped with the same skills or tools or background or whatever. And the comparison trap, I think, is what gets a lot of people to open their wallets and drain their bank accounts because they think that will be the key to success.
Yeah. So it's the keeping up with the Joneses. And then in a school setting, we ask you to keep your eyes on your own paper. And in yoga, we tell you to keep your eyes on your own mat. Like, you're only doing you. Just do you and do you well, which I guess to me is my version of the American dream, because I'm going to circle back around because I don't want anyone to feel debilitated in any way. I do think having hope is important and optimism is important, but really tuning out the noise and the nonsense and the hustle culture is the right thing to do. I know you have a huge social media following. And I know you actually talked about this in the book, that you feel uncomfortable because one of the ways you were able to sell a book proposal is because of your huge social media following. And you feel now as if it came about in kind of an unethical way or a way that doesn't necessarily match your integrity right now. And I'm proud of you for saying that out loud, because as soon as I saw your Instagram followers, I felt inadequate, even though I've done a lot of really cool things and am really proud of myself, because I'm still trying to write and do things. I'm constantly being told by agents and publishers that it's not enough. And so I don't know if I really have a point there, except for that I do understand those feelings and that kind of pit of your stomach of, I'm doing a lot and yet it still doesn't feel good enough. And it's just not a good feeling to have. And so I hope anyone anywhere who's listening knows that you are enough and you are doing an amazing job. And there's plenty of people out there who are there to lift you up and help you. And you don't need to buy their face cream or their essential oil.
And ultimately, are you happier? Like, if I ask myself, when I was making all of that money, was I happier? Was my life better? No. When I've been the thinnest I've ever been, was my life better? No. So asking yourself, like, those things you would aspire for, does that really make you happier? And, has having more Instagram followers made me happier? No. Like, maybe it makes some things easier, but really looking at deep, what really fills me up, in my heart, my soul, and all of those things that sound cheesy, but
no, it's true. And I mean, you're raising 5 beautiful babies who are going to go on and have their own lives, and you want them to look back on you with kind eyes and warmness in their heart, and that is truly what's important. Not, my mom made it to this next level, even though she's shushed me constantly and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Well, Emily, I think you are wonderful, and I'm so happy that you wrote this, and I think it's going to be insanely valuable to many, many, many people. So her full name is Emily Lynn Paulson, and the book is Hey Hun, and Hun is Hun, and that is because many times in social media marketing, people slide into your DMs or message you and are like, hey, hun, you want to meet for wine? You want to meet for coffee and hear about this great, huge, new, amazing business plan that you would be awesome for? So I think you can still meet for coffee, and I think you can still meet for wine, but then just keep your guard up. And then the subtitle is Sales, Sisterhood, Supremacy, and the Other Lies Behind Multi-Level Marketing. Emily, I think you are a joy, and I would love to stay in touch. I think this is such valuable messaging, and I do think so many women and so many moms are hunting and searching for camaraderie and that feeling of belonging that we used to have in churches, we used to have in social circles. And I think right now, especially with everything being so digital, you'd think we'd be more connected, but sometimes we feel really isolated.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate being here.
All right. You take care. Do you have a slow living story to share? Leave me a voicemail at stephanieodea.com/podcast with any questions, comments, feedback, or testimonials, and I will be sure to include it in an upcoming episode. Also, if you found value in this episode, please share it with your family and friends and subscribe through your favorite podcast provider. The more you share, comment, and leave positive reviews, the more people we can reach and share the slow living lifestyle and messaging. Thank you, Slow Down Society, and have an absolutely wonderful day.